Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are going to continue reading the novel Lord of the Mysteries, Volume 1, The Clown by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving. Last time we read up to chapters 55, 56, 57, I think. Yep. What happened? Clan had a new request for divination and he met Anna, I think. Yeah, Anna, and she had a fiance lost at sea. So he was able to use his divination to find out that he has just returned. And then he did some organization and summary, as the chapter name suggests. All right, let's continue with chapter 58, A Train of Thought. The next day, a Monday morning, Clan, who had had the day off, didn't leave home. Instead, he gave Melissa his letter directed to the mentor Cohen Quinton and more than enough money to buy stamps. He entrusted her with the job of mailing the letter at the post office near the Tingen Technical School where she studied. After breakfast, she slept in to make up for the lack of sleep caused by the previous night's work. He only woke up because of his stomach's grumblings close to noon. He heated up some leftovers from the night before and ate them with a loaf of rye bread. Clan grabbed a newspaper and entered the bathroom on the second floor. Whenever he did that, he couldn't help but sigh at the lack of a cell phone. After about 7 or 8 minutes, he left the toilet refreshed and washed his hands. He then returned to his bedroom and locked his door. Clan drew his curtain, lit up the gas lamp, and cogitated for half an hour. After practicing his spiritual vision, spirit dowsing, and the dowsing rod for half an hour, he spent another hour mentally reviewing the mysticism knowledge he had gained recently. After doing all that, he ripped up the old newspaper and crumpled them into a few balls. He wrote on them moonflower candle, full moon essence oil, and other names of materials. He followed the prescribed steps of a ritualistic magic in his head in order to master every little detail. Until he was entirely familiar with it, he didn't intend to try ritualistic magic because it was both a waste of materials and also easily attracted danger. He repeated again and again until he picked up his silver pocket watch patterned with vine leaves and took a glass. He realized that it was quarter to 3. He considered for a few seconds and brought the scraps of old newspaper to the kitchen on the first floor to burn them. While doing so, he made sure he was in an optimal state of mind as he prepared for the tarot gathering. Locking his bedroom door once again, Client didn't wait for the clock to strike 3. He planned to enter the area above the grey fog ahead of time. He wanted to seize the chance to explore the place thoroughly. As Client stood in an empty spot in his room and started walking counterclockwise, he suddenly worried that Justice and the hangman had yet to enter a suitable environment. He thought of a particular matter. Would they be disturbed or discovered? He had previously allowed Justice and the hangman to apply for leave ahead of time if they needed to be absent from the gathering for some reason, such as being unable to find time alone or unexpected circumstances. It would have been almost unsolvable problem for Klein in the past, but there was no way he could build an entire server-based internet by hand in a different world, right? Any technology based on the uh, any technology beyond the telegram could expose him. But now he suddenly found an inspiration from ritualistic magic. Ritualistic magic borrows the powers of others by seeking help from different existences. Similar incantation would make it clear who it is directed to in the beginning, such as the Ebonite Goddess or the Lady of Crimson. It would be a description of the unknown and the clandestine existences. Then can I amend the chant and redirect the beginnings of the chant towards myself, directed at me? This way, even if the justice and hangman conduct a ritual in different locations, I will receive their messages. Clan suddenly felt fresh insight as he began analyzing the likelihood of the method working. There are two difficulties. First, I'm not an incredibly strong high level sequencer. Even if the description of the incantation was directed at me, I couldn't possibly receive the request. Second, how can I ensure that the description of the chant is directed at me accurately and it doesn't stray away and hit some other unknown existence that fits the description? That would be incredibly dangerous. Clan paced back and forth, deep in thought for a possible workable solution. He went in circles with silent footsteps. Then he naturally linked the matter with the mysterious world of the grey fog. Even if I can't receive the message, that doesn't mean the grey fog can't. It's its connection with the crimson stars that can drag a person into space directly, regardless of where they are in the physical world. I could consider tying myself to the mysterious space during the directed description. In according in accordance with this train of thought, even though I might not immediately receive the request, when the other party is holding the ritual, I'll still be able to see the corresponding message whenever I enter the fog. To put it simply, it is the difference between being online and offline on an instant messaging system. Client became more excited the more he thought. He felt that his idea was worth a try. What kind of description could be used to precisely direct a message to me and to the grey fog world? He, sta- he started thinking about the actual details. In fact, he had an incantation that would definitely work. It was none other than the low-end translation of celestial, celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessing. But herein lies the problem. He would lose control of the grey fog and lose his leading role. He could only exclude it. The fool from an alternative world? No way, it is quite accurate and there is almost no other existence that fits the criteria, but it would expose my biggest secret. Clan thought of one incantation after another, but he crossed off each one. After about 7 to 8 minutes, he finally decided on the description for the first paragraph that directed to him. The fool that doesn't belong in this era, to this era. It was obviously not accurate enough, therefore Clan quickly added the mysterious ruler above the grey fog. The combination of two lines practically limited it to him. Furthermore, he had tied the grey fog to him. It's still a little short. I cannot eliminate the possibility that there are multiple spaces and rulers above the grey fog. I cannot eliminate the fact that the description might be directed to the spirit world. Clark creased his eyebrows and planned on making it more certain. He thought for a full minute and finally decided on the last part of the description. The king of yellow and black wields good luck. It shared a similar meaning to the exalted thearch of the arch of the heaven and earth for blessing. If the incantation purely depended on the part of the description, it might end up being directed away and provoking unknown dangerous existences. But with the first two lines as a limitation and his experience of arriving above the fog through a similar incantation, he believed that the target's description could result in a perfect lock on. Klein wasn't sure if casting the ritualistic magic with those three descriptions would be effective, but he was definite that it would not attract the existence of another It would not attract attention of another existence. It wouldn't throw justice and hangman into danger. Klein heaved a long sigh and recited the incantation that he had decided upon. A fool that doesn't belong to this era, you are the mysterious ruler above the grey fog. You're the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. He nodded his head slightly and took out his pocket watch to confirm the time. It's already 2:58. Without further thought, Klein put away his pocket watch and entered cogitation. Soon he chanted and took four steps counterclockwise to form a square. The most ferocious noises and heart-stirring roars were heard once again. He felt the headache that was even harder to deal with than the pain of consuming the seer potion. The pain was not a sharp pain that tore through his head. It was a throbbing pain that made him manic and irrational. It was a pain that left him in a chaotic confusion. Clan controlled himself using cogitation and tried hard to ignore the voices. The mutterings and murmurs receded like the tides. His body became ethereal along with his spirituality. Everything seemed to float. The boundless grey fog appeared before his sight, the crimson stars at varying distances from him, just like a pair of eyes. Above the grey fog stood the palace, lofty and towering like the home of a giant. It was as though it had been there for millions of years. All Clan did was will it, and he disappeared from where he was, reappearing at the seat of honor on the long bronze table with the 22 high-backed chairs. The effect of the ritual is definitely fixed, Clan muttered. He tapped his glabella gently and allowed the fog to engulf him, once thicker than before. According to the description of the hangman, if justice had become a spectator, it would be best not to reveal any of his tricks before her. Without any time for exploring, Client extended his right hand and formed an invisible connection, connecting him, connecting him to the two familiar crimson stars. On the roaring blue waves of Sonia Sea, an ancient sailboat was sailing with the wind. Alder Wilson locked himself in the captain's cabin and made the ghost ship provide him the best protection. He opened the pocket watch before him and laid it next to the brass sextant. Clock was ticking without joy as it exuded nervousness. When the hour hand and minute hand and the second hand aligned, there was an explosion of crimson before Alger Wilson. It ignored the layers and layers of protection he had placed over himself. His sigh reverberated across the captain's room. Backlit, Empress Barrow. Audrey Hall laid against the down feather pillow and glanced at the yellow paper in her hand. Her gem-like eyes looked like they had two souls spiraling slowly in them. Her gaze was calm and cool, as if she were waiting for a play to begin. As the crimson red erupted, she looked at herself being swallowed, complete detachment. Above the grey fog, the magnificent palace on the ancient and mortal long bronze table. Clan, who had already activated his spiritual vision, looked over when Audrey Hall's figure began to form. He was not surprised to see that the colors deep in her aura had blended together. It had become pure and serene, like a lake that was crystal clear and reflective. She really did become a beyonder. Clan was just about to move his gaze away when he suddenly saw the chair belonging to Miss Justice change. The bright stars on the back of the chairs moved swiftly, forming an illusory constellation that didn't belong to reality. That constellation was familiar to Clan because it was one of the symbols of mysticism. It was a symbol that represented giant dragon. Spectator? Giant dragon? Clan restrained himself from shaking his head and looked over the back of the hangman's chair. Typically speaking, it was impossible for him to see the back of the chair from his angle, but this was where he was in control. Everything presented itself according to his will. The constellation on the back of the chair had not changed, but since Klein had grasped the basics of mysticism, he wasn't as ignorant as before. He could recognize that it was the symbol of storm. Sailor, keeper of sea, storm. That's reasonable. The color deep in Mr. The color deep in the hangman's aura is much purer than it was. Had he advanced? Oh yeah, what about the symbol behind my chair? Clan suppressed the impulse to look and rapped at the edge of the long table thrice, just like before, smiled as he said, Congratulations, Miss Justice, you are a beyonder now. He can tell straight away. Audrey was stunned and smiled faintly. Thank you, Mr. Fool, and thank you, Mr. Hangman. That was much faster than I thought, Alger Wilson said honestly. Klein didn't continue the topic, but tapped his glabella and said with a smile, Lady, sir, have either of you found Roselle's diary? A footnote about the king of black, yellow, and black. So it's in Chinese, yellow refers to earth. Oh, and black refers to heaven. Chapter 59, Roselle's Origins. Upon hearing the fool's question, Audrey did not immediately answer like in the past. Instead, she widened her crystalline eyes, glanced at the hangman with scrutinous attitude. Alger subconsciously subdued his body motions. After a few seconds of silence, he said, I found 2 pages of Emperor Roselle's diary and have memorized their contents. I have 1 page, Audrey said, whose vision was obscured by the fog, as though she was removed from from the conversation. Pretty good. Klein did not allow his joy or his disappointment be noticed from his voice. He felt joy as there were 3 full pages, but disappointment also because there were only 3 pages. The initial search for the diary was definitely easier, for all they had to do was ask through the connection and channels they were already familiar with. Collecting the pages would become more and more difficult as time went on, and as it wo- as it would involve more and more element. Should we express them now? Audrey inquired in a calm tone. Yes, Clarence simply nodded. He maintained his posture without change. He had to be cautious in front of a spectator. As he finished his sentence, pieces of yellowish brown goatskin parchment and red fountain pens appeared in front of Audrey and Alger. The two of them picked up their pens and started to recall the symbols they had seen. They also infused the emotions of expressing them out. Silently, lines of text appeared on the goatskin. Some of them appeared proper, some delicate, others slanted. In a mere minute, contents that Alger and Audrey had forcibly memorized were all written. Klein willed the 3 pieces of parchments into his hands. He gave the pages a cursory glance and realized that some of the grammar was wrong. There were also missing and wrong words in the content. But experimentation had proved that the incorrect sequencing of words to some extent did not affect the overall comprehension of Chinese. Klein was also afraid of missing words since he often read web novels filled with censored asterisks. 8th April. I stood on the bow of Black King and stretched my arms, saying to Grimm and Edwards, my fortune is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. I left everything I own at the ends of the fog sea. They did not understand my humor at all and even asked if I really had other treasures. How boring. You can't be my 4 horsemen of the apocalypse if you keep at that. 11th April. I discovered a nameless island that was not on a safe sea route. There are a good number of extraordinary animals there. I prefer calling them extraordinary beings. It feels more impressive that way. Other than that, there are several weird creatures on the island. I believe if Darwin had been transmigrated here, there was no way he could have written his theory of evolution. 15th April. Grimm has suddenly become a little odd. Has he been infected by something? When did Emperor Rosal, who was born in the Indus Kingdom, set off on a voyage? The Foxy should be the sea west of Indus Republic. Yeah, I need to use historical information from the library to cross-reference this. Klein quickly finished reading a page and casting his gaze to the back of the piece of paper. At this point, he no longer hid the fact that he could decipher Emperor Rosette's secret symbols, since this ability fitted with the persona and the status of the fool. Audrey and Alger did not speak. They waited silently as if unsurprised by such a revelation. In fact, they even believed that it was only right. 2nd October. They actually want me to marry Matilda from the Abel family, even without consulting me first? Heavens, I have not even met her. No, I must decline. Even if I were to run away from home and survive on my own and suffer the vicissitudes of life, I must fight against this marriage. 5th, 5th October. Miss Matilda is really pretty. 6th October. Her personality and her demeanor is just my type. I'm starting to look forward to the marriage. Hey, Emperor, where is your integrity? Klein leaned back in his seat and not allowing his emotions to pass through the fog. He realized that Gustav did not write in his diary every day early on. Most of the time, he would only write in a diary when there were certain events that he needed to lampoon, record, or vent his emotions. He shifted his gaze downwards. Klein looked at the last sentence of the page. 9th October. They actually called me the son of steam. I like that very much. Klein was a little disappointed that the information in the first pages was of little value. But he did not turn sullen. He moved the third page to the top. This page had content written on both sides of the paper. For 21st of May, the Church of God of Craftsmanship gave me two choices, two beginning sequence pathways. One of them was the Savant. It was a complete sequence pathway they possess. The other is Mystery Prior, which they obtained from the Moses ascetic order, but it lacks the higher sequences. 22nd May. My choice was easy, Savant. Savant has more complete sequence pathway. Although wielding more information on mysticism can aid my return home, the problem is that I am not strong enough. There is a need to acquire external help for transmigration. And I do not know if this external entity would be good or bad, benevolent or malicious. I cannot control it, and thus it could be very dangerous. In that case, why not strengthen myself and return by relying on my own powers? Thus, the complete sequence was the most important factor in my considerations. 23rd May. I have become a savant. With the power of the potion, I actually recalled all the knowledge I had learned in the past, such as physics, chemistry, etc. I have not only recalled the knowledge, but I understand it more deeply, as well as its possible applications and implications. Huh, this job, this is a job specially tailored for a transmigrator like me from an alternate realm. I'll be able to express my advantage to the greatest extent. I have to say that if I were to return in my present state to the third year of high school, I would definitely become a top scholar. If I could further specialize in this area, it wouldn't even be too hard for me to become a scientist. 26th of May. I'm enjoying my status as a savant. Something odd worth mentioning. When I address myself as a savant, doing things that are in line with this role, the murmurings, the murmurings that drive me crazy become considerably softer. I have also been able to control my occasional temper outburst. I've also recalled the matter regarding the diary. Is this the acting that the mysterious Zaratul mentioned? Could this be the key to resolving the side effects posed by the potions? As Klein read the diary page, he had a deep realization that there was a fundamental difference between how he and Emperor Roselle did things. For example, regarding the matter of returning home, Klein considered grasping in-depth knowledge of mysticism to avoid risks and accomplish his goals, while Emperor Roselle preferred to rely on himself and face the risk. I have to say, I envy people like that sometimes. Perhaps everyone yearns for something they do not possess. Of course, I also have to consider strengthening myself. Both of these are important, Klein thought, sighing a little. The description provided by Emperor Roselle about acting instilled Klein with confidence that the conclusion he made about acting yesterday was more or less correct. He put the three diaries pages down, looked up at Justice and the hangman. He smiled and said, "My apologies. I was too absorbed in reading them." Audrey calmed the envy in her heart and smiled faintly. "I can understand. I hope to one day be able to exchange information about the diary's contents. That will require a price." Klein smiled and glanced at Justice, then swept his gaze towards the silent hangman. Audrey put her palms together and placed them in front of her. "Mr. Fool, Mr. Hangman, I have three questions to ask. If you think that the answers warrant a high price, tell me what I want. Tell me what you want, and I'll try my best to seek it." "No problem," answered Alger answered succinctly. Client nodded and leaned back further, making himself comfortable. Audrey thought for a few seconds and said, "The first question is, what does acting really mean? I realize that the remnant psyche in the potion has minute effects on me. Is that because I have been acting as a spectator all this while?" Alger did not speak. Instead, he looked at the fool as though waiting for him to give an answer. Klein rubbed his finger on the edge of the table and said in a relaxed tone, "Let me explain this with an analogy. Imagine the core parts of your potion as a tightly guarded castle. The remnants of the psyche that can cause a flashback resides within the castle. Our goal is to get rid of it and become true master of the castle. There are two ways you can do that. First is to forcefully invade the castle. There is no guarantee that this will work, and you will most definitely injure yourself unless you can suppress it with absolute power. Of course, we are not equipped to do that. Second way is to get the owner of the castle to extend an invitation. This invitation can allow us to slide through the scrutiny of the guards and infiltrate the castle. We can then easily finish off the enemies. But the problem lies in the fact that this invitation specifies the facial features and characteristics of the guest. Thus, we have to disguise ourselves and act as a guest. Do you understand? Alger immediately asked, as if he had anticipated this reply. Then the afore, then the aforementioned invitation is the name of the potion sequence. That's right, Clam answered with great affirmation. Audrey froze for a moment, having a sudden feeling that she completely understood what acting meant. She immediately exited her spectator state due to her excitement. She praised in joy. "What an exceptional method. I think it fits your title. Its style is very compatible with the fool. I would never have believed that acting would have such an effect. Luckily, I have been acting as a spectator the past few days." She paused for a moment before saying, "I think that this is a very valuable answer. My heart is not at ease accepting it for nothing. Mr. Fool, what do you need in exchange? Of course, I still remember I owe you a page of Emperor Roselle's diary." "More pages of Roselle's diary or—" Clan paused for a second. He wanted to get information about the sequence regarding the seer, but he felt such a low-level request would ruin the mystical image of the fool. Thus, he chose to give up on it and planned to ask them discreetly some other day. I just have it. I just advanced recently and have to completely digest the seer potion." He consoled himself and added on without any expression. "Anything regarding the Antigonus family, even if even if I'm already aware of them myself." Alger remained silent for a few seconds. He looked at the top of the long bronze table for a moment before slowly opening his mouth. "Mr. Fool, I believe I can pay you back immediately with the information you requested just now." Chapter 60. The Second Blasphemy State. "No problem." Clan tried to maintain his unchanging deep tone. He rested his left elbow on the armrest of his chair and supported his forehead slightly with his fingers, posing as though he was listening calmly. Alger deliberated over his word and said, "The Antigonus is an ancient family. Their history can be traced back to the Cataclysm epoch before the fourth epoch and is related to the second blasphemy slate." The second blasphemy slate? There's a second slate? There's a second blasphemy slate? How many are there? Client's pupil shrank and he nearly changed his posture. According to what the hangman and justice have said previously, the blasphemy slate contains the profound mysteries of 22 parts of the divine. There are two such important items, or even more. The 22 parts of the divine, sequences and pathways. Could these two nouns mean the same thing? Every complete sequence pathway leads straight to the throne of divine. In that instance, the description of the second blasphemy slate gave Klein numerous thoughts. He believed that if not for the thick grayish white fog concealing him, his emotional reaction would probably be discovered by a spectator. As for the word cataclysm epoch, he was no stranger to that term as a historian. It was the name of the third epoch. After his recent revision, Klein even knew that the third epoch was separated into two eras, the glorious era and the cataclysm era. The second blasphemy slate? Audrey plainly revealed her ignorance on the matter. Before she calmed her emotions, she returned to her spectator state. Nice question. Nice question. Clarence secretly cheered for Miss Justice. It was a question inconvenient for him to ask as the fool. Al just stole a glance at the fool and noticed that his posture remained the same, nor did he make a sound. So he thought and answered, the first blasphemy slate appeared in the Dark Epoch, which is the second epoch where we humans struggle to survive under the protection of the gods. The second blasphemy slate appeared at the end of the third epoch. It could even be said that its appearance symbolized the end of the cataclysm epoch. I like that word, cataclysm. The content of two blasphemy slate is kept secret by the seven major churches. I only know bits and pieces of it. I only know that they involve the parts of the divine, but I'm not sure of the differences between them. Was the blasphemy slate that Emperor Roselle saw the first or the second? Audrey asked curiously. Upon hearing that, Alger recalled what Alger said about the potion names during the first gathering. He said that the names of sequence potions were derived from this blasphemy slate. Similarly, Captain had also mentioned that the formation and completion of the potion system was thanks to the birth of blasphemy slate. That directly confirms that the paths of divine are the sequence pathways. Lion answered his question silently. Then Alger simply replied, the second one. The glint in Audrey's eyes diminished and she returned to her spectator state. She did not continue asking questions. Instead, all she did was focus her gaze on the hangman. It was the obvious scrutiny that It was obvious that her scrutiny made Alger uncomfortable, but he suppressed the emotions within him. He lowered his voice and continued, during the Solomon dynasty in the fourth epoch, although the Antigonus family was considered an illustrious part of the aristocracy, they didn't do anything very memorable until they supported the establishment of the Tudor Empire. They then stood right in the middle of the stage of northern continent. In that period, Antigonus, Ammon, Abraham, Jacob, and others were illustrious names in the human kingdom. However, after the War of the Four Emperors, the Blood Emperor from the Tudor Empire perished. They fell from the top of their pedestal, are now hunted by the seven deities. I'm not sure about the actual process, but I do know that the Antigonus family was destroyed at the hands of the Church of Evernite. Mr. Wool, if you'd like to know more, I'm afraid that you can only obtain the information from the Church of Evernite or from the few secret organizations. You know which few I'm referring to. I don't plan nodded while feeling bitter inside. Okay, secret order is one. Captain and Old Neil mentioned the Moses aesthetic order. I wonder if psychology alchemist count? While he mentally checked off the candidates, Alger provided him a last bit of information. I similarly have no idea which sequence pathways the Antigonus family held. There are only two adjectives that appear repeatedly in the description of the Antigonus family, and those are strange and terrifying. Strange and terrifying. Thinking back to the notebook, the original client and his classmates, and what happened to Ray Beaver's mother, it really is aptly worded. Client continuously rapped the edge of the long table with the tip of his finger a couple of times. Then he slowly began to speak. Very well, satisfied with the payment. The reason he continuously rapped the long table lightly with his finger was to emphasize the action, to make Justice and the hangman believe that he had the habit of rapping in order to conceal the fact that the same motion was used to activate and deactivate his spirit vision. It's my pleasure. Alger did not say anything else. Audrey took a look at the hangman and then the phone. She smiled faintly and said, "Then I shall ask my second question. What is the name of the subsequent portion for spectator? Where can I find the clues?" I'd also like to ask so straightforwardly, but different choices lead to different difficulties. Klein did not speak, but cast his gaze towards the hangman. Alger remained silent for a few seconds before saying, "I'll answer the question for free because I led to this pathway. The subsequent sequence of spectate for spectator is sequence 8, telepathist. The ancient name of sequence 7 is psychanalyst, but it's called psychiatrist now. This is I found out from a member of Psychology Alchemist. I think they should have quite a number of potion formulas for this pathway. Psychology Alchemist. Spirit Medium Daily was rather approving of their theory, but the captain thought of them as evil and crazy. Klein listened while deep in thought. "Do you know the whereabouts of that particular Psychology Alchemist member?" Klein uh, sorry, asked Audrey as her eyes beamed with joy. Be a telepathist or a psychiatrist, both names appeal to her aesthetics. Alger gave a rare laugh. "I do. He's immersed in the seas around Sonia Island. I sank him with my own hands. If you would like to look for the psychology alchemist, I have to apologize since I severed the clues." He was not worried that Justice would find his identity through his description because he did that on his own, out of the public eye. Sank? Audrey was at a loss on how to reply or what expression to wear. She drew a deep breath and suddenly feigned to maintain her spectator state. She asked bashfully the third question. If, I'm saying if, a normal animal were to drink the sequence 9 potion, what would happen? What kind of question is that? Clan tapped his glabella unnoticeably with his finger that was supporting his forehead. Very quickly, he saw changes in color and noticed that Audrey's emotions had turned frantic and nervous and a little ashamed. Could she have done something so stupid? Klein was astounded but didn't find it strange. After the past two gatherings, he was certain that Miss Justice was quite an airhead. The hangman Alger was obviously dumbfounded as well. He took a while to reply. Normal animals do not have the brains of humans. They wouldn't be able to learn cognition in a timely manner. Therefore, it would most likely lead to immediate death or breakdown into a monster. However, if they survived at the initial ingestion of the potion, they should become an extraordinary creature. If the potion has the ability to enhance their intelligence, they can even become smarter. All right. Audrey breathed out a silent sigh and nodded while saying in a relaxed tone, "I have no other questions." Alger considered for a moment and did not mention matters regarding the Aurora Order or the listener. Similarly, he shook his head and said, "Nor do I. I have something." Lion didn't change his posture but said with a smile, "It will require your cooperation." He had yet to turn off his spirit vision, and he immediately saw the hangman was showing signs of nervousness, while Miss Justice was too simple minded to show fear or carefulness. Before he could reply, Plan comforted them. "Don't worry, it's trivial. If it succeeds, it will be beneficial to you, so I be wouldn't be paying extra remuneration. Go ahead." Audrey instinctively entered the spectator state, but she couldn't see through the thick fog engulfing the. As you will, Alger replied, steadying himself. Klein moved his fingers and smiled when he said, previously I said we would do some experiments to enable you to ask for a leave of absence. That way you do not have to worry if you have to be somewhere inappropriate for a Monday afternoon. That's our wish. Audrey loosened her tightly knitted eyebrows. Alger thought and said, what do you need us to do? You could try a piece of ritualistic magic during your free time. It need not be too formal. As long as you are in an environment that won't be disturbed, put four brand new candles on an altar placed on four corners respectively. It's best if they are the candles with sandalwood scent. Put a loaf of white bread near the candle on the top left corner, a bowl of Fenia Potter noodles near the candle on the top right corner, pay, pela by the candle on the bottom left corner, and a desi pie by the candle on the bottom right corner. Use a silver knife to make a sealed spiritual environment. Klein described his modified version of the luck enhancement ritual and taught Miss Justice how to create a spiritual environment for free. To be frank, as the ritual was targeted at itself, Klein believed that the former part, which was intended to attract the interest of an entity, could be omitted completely. However, he still worked hard to make the procedure seem important. Of course, it didn't comply with what old Neil taught about gods being second and oneself being third. Mix moonflowers, gold mint, slumber flowers, fingered citron, and rock rose together, then distill it. Extract it for its essential oil, then pour a drop onto each candle. Audrey listened with piqued interest as she recorded all what he said. When he was done, she asked, what about the incantation? Mr. Fool, what's the corresponding incantation? Alger stopped writing with the fountain pen in his hand as well. He turned his head to look at the fool. Clan, who was immersed in the great fog, tapped the edge of the long table with his fingers lightly and said calmly and monotonously in Hermes, the fool that doesn't belong to this era. You are the mysterious ruler above the grey fog. You are the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. All right, we'll stop here for today. Thank you for listening. Have a nice